Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm Lee Camp. Good to have you here. As the United States continues to push the world towards some epic war, there's a lot to talk about, a lot to cover. But no, the United States, Donald Trump and the administration, they didn't know what Israel was going to do. They had no idea. They're like, oh my God, Israel's attacking Iran. Why did we send them 300 Hellfire missiles just before they did that? Who knows? We had no idea what was going to happen. Why has it been shown that the orders of pizza at the Pentagon shot up right before Israel attacked Iran? I don't know. I guess people, all like thousands of people at the Pentagon, just decided to work late that night. They didn't know that it was going to happen. Of course, the United States greenlit and approved and financed and funded all of this. We're going to talk more about Iran a little later. But I wanted to jump in with this pretty hilarious at times, pretty amazing. I'm just going to show a couple of clips of this, the fireworks between Tucker Carlson and Ted Cruz. Tucker Carlson mostly just obliterates Ted Cruz. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if this is the end of Ted Cruz's career. It was that bad. As Ted Cruz tries to defend AIPAC and defend Israel and all this shit. I am no Tucker Carlson fan. I think he is absolutely a sleazy con man, grifter, sack of human garbage who manufactured consent for wars that have killed millions. Now, that doesn't mean that I disagree with everything he says. Nowadays, he is largely anti-war in a lot of areas, so I will agree with those parts. But that does not mean I'm going to spin around and go, Tucker Carlson's a hero. He said 5 things I like. I don't care about what he did for the past 20 years of his life. And by the way, he loves mentioning that he supported the Iraq War. It wasn't just supported the Iraq War. It was going on television every single day and manufacturing consent for the Iraq War. And then he goes, yeah, I was wrong. Turns out I was wrong. Oh, man, crazy. And that's telltale sign of a grifter. Oh, you believe one thing one day and I get more clicks if I believe this thing today. Okay, well, that's what I believe now. Telltale signs. Anyway, that doesn't mean he didn't do a great job of ripping apart Ted Cruz. I'm just going to show, I'm not going to, it's 2 hours. The interview is 2 hours long. And I'm just going to show a couple of clips that we can chat about. So thanks for being here with me and let's do it.
It's weird.
Sorry, to jump into this clip, I should give you the background that Tucker Carlson asked a few questions about Israel, why Ted Cruz supports AIPAC in Israel. And then immediately Ted Cruz gets defensive and says, what is your obsession with Israel? So it starts off with Ted Cruz trying to dodge answering these questions.
It's weird. We're talking about isolationists, the obsession with Israel. Why is Israel?
Oh, I don't think I'm obsessed with Israel.
Okay, but I think a lot of people are. And like the question is.
And also, I would like to answer in a different way. I know Tucker Carlson's like, I'm not obsessed. I think the answer is you should be. Everyone should be. It's an active live stream genocide that we are funding and arming and supporting. You should be obsessed with Israel. Absolutely. So only sociopaths go, why are people obsessed with Israel? And by the way, there's a completely separate interview with Tucker Carlson that I thought I might do a breakdown of later, where he basically says the reverse. He literally, Tucker Carlson is like, why are people so caught up on Israel? Because it's a fucking genocide. That's why. Stop asking that question. Everybody.
Israel spies on us. Well, so does every other country. Why are you mad at Israel?
I guess, no.
Because Israel's the one committing genocide. Yeah, other countries might try and spy us. Also, Israel's spying on us in a far more effective way than any other country.
Oh, I'm hardly the one I've never taken money from the Israel lobby. Have you?
Taken money from the Israel?
From AIPAC.
So AIPAC raises a lot of money for me, but it's actually a misnomer because the people who raise money are individuals. Right. So it's not the PAC itself, but they're individual members who believe in the.
I think this response is hilarious. First of all, when he's asked if he takes money from the Israel lobby, he goes, what do we mean by that? And then he goes, AIPAC isn't AIPAC. It's individuals. Yeah, everything's made up of individuals. Asshole. Everything in the world is made up of individuals. Oh, you took money from Exxon? Well, that's a misnomer because Exxon is actually not Exxon. It's a bunch of human beings that are running Exxon. Oh, well, that's a different thing.
The American-Israeli friendship
is
and
AIPAC
relationship.
a foreign lobby?
No, it's an American lobby. It's the AIPAC stands for the America-Israeli Political Action Committee.
What is it lobby for?
Well, I'll play this little part over again, but I just love Tucker Carlson's like stupid face because he's doing it's a trick, right? He's walking Ted Cruz into a trap. Tucker Carlson doesn't not know the answers to these things. He's just acting dumb so that Ted Cruz has to answer the questions. And anyway, it's just the tactic of playing just utterly like dumb as a dog is just kind of funny. But
is AIPAC a foreign lobby?
No, it's an American lobby. It's the AIPAC stands for the America-Israeli Political Action Committee.
What does it lobby for?
So, to be honest, not a whole lot effectively. Listen.
That's not an answer. And not effectively. Literally, AIPAC and the rest of the Israel lobby have succeeded at keeping just about 99% of Congress, quote unquote, supports Israel because of AIPAC and the Israel lobby. Not only can they fund the candidates to get into office that then support Israel, but they can also fund getting people out of Congress who didn't support Israel. And they did it quite successfully this last time, right? They got rid of Cory Bush, Booker. No, not Booker. They got rid of Cory Bush, Jamal Bowman, just to name a couple. 99% of the time, they are successful at making sure Congress is 100% Israel. And he says they're not successful.
A whole lot effectively. Listen, I came into Congress 13 years ago with the stated intention of being the leading defender of Israel in the United States Senate.
Great.
And I've worked every day to do that. AIPAC, a lot of times, AIPAC, I wish were much more effective. Like, There are folks online who are in the fever swamp of terrified of AIPAC, and AIPAC.
I'm not terrified of AIPAC at all. You're the one who seems a little uncomfortable when I'm asking.
No, not uncomfortable at all.
I'm just asking what AIPAC does. My understanding, having known a lot of people who work at AIPAC, is that it lobbies on behalf of the Israeli government.
Wrong.
Oh, okay.
It's
when was the last time AIPAC took a position that deviated from Prime Minister Netanyahu?
All the time.
Name one. Okay.
Let me go back and give a little history. Do you want to do a deep dive on AIPAC?
I don't. I want to do a shallow dive that gets.
No.
So, don't worry, I'm gonna keep playing it. But how often do they differ from the Israeli government? Fucking never. There's never once been a time that AIPAC has gone the opposite of the Israeli government. It is a lobbying arm of the Israeli government. There are no two ways about it. But Ted Cruz doesn't want to admit that. So he says, they differ from Netanyahu, the Israeli government, all the time. And Tucker Carlson says, name one. And Ted Cruz can't. So his next tactic is to go, let me tell you a little bit of history. How about we take a detour into me not answering this question? Back in the 1800s, you might recall that I did not answer this question.
I want to get to the core question. AIPAC is lobbying for a foreign government. And it's not. It's lobbying for the United States.
It is lobbying for a strong U.S.-Israeli relationship.
Okay. So it's not has nothing to do with the foreign government.
It wants America and Israel to be closely allied.
Okay. But
he can't even, Ted Cruz, even in his really trying really hard effort to make AIPAC seem like something that is positive and something that is not just an Israel lobby. Because, of course, if it's an Israel lobby, then you have to register under FARA, which they don't. So in his effort, he still can't even come up with a good, like you'd think if you were going to spit out this propaganda, just blah out of his face, he might have practiced. What is it AIPAC does? Oh, it's interesting you ask that because they sell cookies and then sometimes they say something about Israel. I don't know what's up.
But
It wants America and Israel to be closely allied.
Okay, but it's lobbying on behalf of the interests of another country.
So that's not true at all. And if
it's not true.
No.
How much contact do you think AIPAC leaders have with the government of Israel?
No idea. I imagine some. I think the government of Israel is often frustrated with AIPAC because AIPAC's not nearly strong enough.
Do you think
the government of Israel is upset with AIPAC because they're not strong enough? The most powerful fucking lobby in the United States is not strong enough, doesn't have enough impact, even though it keeps 99% of Congress in bed with Israel, supporting genocide, not effective enough. Israel's really, oh man, do they have a bone to pick with the Israel lobby? They're just not doing enough. Of course, why would Israel be upset with AIPAC not doing enough unless Israel expected AIPAC to do everything it wanted? Oh, there's another question you could fire his way. Oh my God, what a repulsive! It's really interesting, this dynamic of this interview, because these are two repulsive human beings. Tucker Carlson less so, because he's now anti-war. So, I'm definitely cheering for Tucker in this conversation. But at the same time, these are two snake oil salesmen. It's just that one of them is in Congress. The other one is no longer in corporate media and largely gets more views and clicks when he does things that corporate media wouldn't really show you. So now his game, his racket is, what can I show people that the corporate media won't show them? And sometimes he hits the nail on the head, like right now. But this stuff can't be said. I mean, it's funny because if there were anyone that had been a mainstream face of our news on multiple channels for years on CNN, then for years on Fox News, mainstream face of our news who could say, no, you can't really question AIPAC on our cable news channels, our corporate news channels, it'd be Tucker Carlson. But he doesn't say that. I guess he's trying to keep some of his friends over there. I don't know.
Think there's any coordination between the government of Israel and AIPAC?
Do they talk? Sure. If you're lobbying for more U.S.-Mexico trade, would you talk to people in the U.S. and Mexico and the government? Sure. Like if.
So I'm not mad about that. There are a million countries that lobby Washington. I like a lot of those countries, including Israel.
But AIPAC are Americans. They're not Israelis.
Hold on. There are tons of Americans who lobby on behalf of foreign governments. I know them. I'm related to some of them. I know how it works. I'm from here. So my question is not, is it outrageous that foreign governments lobby the United States? They all do, okay, including Israel. My only question is, why don't we admit that is what's happening? You're denying it, but it's true.
Yeah, and why
aren't they registered as a foreign lobby?
Because they're not.
They're not a foreign lobby.
No, they're not. And this is that there's a fever swamp. Look,
it's not a fever swamp. These are very reasonable questions. And you've accused me of being obsessed with Israel, which I'm not.
I actually haven't. I've said
isolationist. And being feverish about it, which I'm not at all. I find it's a very tender spot when you ask it, and I don't know why.
Hey, and of course, still, even as Tucker Carlson begins revealing his true hand, which is, yeah, I know it's a foreign lobbying firm. I know it should be registered under FARA, even though earlier he acted like, I don't really understand what's going on. What is AIPAC? Even though he's revealing a lot of that, he's still playing a little bit dumb. Because he's like, I'm trying to figure out why this is a touchy subject. Of course, he knows why it's a touchy subject, because our Congress people are funded by the Israel lobby. And that's why it's a touchy subject. Thank you, Carlos, for supporting the show. Really appreciate it. Carlos says, so damn funny. I bet most politicians melt like this, even under this slight pushback. You are correct. The reason you don't see more interviews like this is because corporate media, like even Tucker Carlson, when he was in corporate media, wouldn't do this to someone they're ostensibly in the same wing of. So, he is a Republican. So is Ted Cruz. But the other reason you wouldn't see this is because access. If you push this hard against a sitting congressperson, no more sitting congresspeople are going to show up on your show. Tucker Carlson clearly doesn't care at this point, which is good to see.
So, Tucker,
very reasonable questions, and you've accused me of being obsessed with Israel, which I'm not.
I actually haven't. I've said isolationist.
Being feverish about it, which I'm not at all. I find it's a very tender spot when you ask it, and I don't know why.
So, Tucker, all right, let's go back. I was first elected to the Senate in 2012.
Every time Ted Cruz is up against the wall, he's like, let's talk about some history. I mean, God, the 1700s were crazy. Can we agree on that? Let's talk a little about the 1700s. He keeps thinking history's going to save him, and it's not. It's so not. All right, I'm going to show another clip that's from that same kind of segment of the debate. Click thumbs up, everybody. Click share. Click subscribe. And by the way, I'm going to get to a little bit deeper levels here in a moment, but I want to show another part of this debate that's in that same topic, and I can't remember if some of this might overlap. I don't think it does, but if it does, forgive me.
Do you think that it's just interesting because what you're now describing?
Sorry, he didn't start talking. It's not like the cocaine kicked in right then. I just had it on fast forward.
Do you think that it's just interesting because what you're now describing in a very defensive way, I will say, is foreign influence over our politics?
No.
And you began, and it's so transparently obvious to everybody. I don't know why you would be embarrassed of it. You've said that you are sincerely for Israel. I believe you. I don't think you have some weird agenda. You seem to be sincere.
And I just want to say, there's another level to this that neither of them are talking about, that even Tucker, as he roasts Ted Cruz over the pit, isn't talking about, which is the U.S. and Israel are one government. At times, they will slightly go in rather slightly separate directions, but they're essentially one and the same. I mean, Israel is part and parcel of the U.S. empire. Netanyahu is American. Yeah, he was born in Israel, but he grew up in the United States, grew up in Pennsylvania, went to school in Pennsylvania, went to MIT. First job was Boston Consulting. He's an American. So the idea that they're two separate entities, but of course you can't admit that. And Tucker Carlson either doesn't know that or also doesn't want to admit it. But that's just another level to this that neither of them really get to. But yes, on a layer slightly above that, yes, of course, AIPAC and the Israel lobby is a foreign government lobbying American politicians. Of course it is. But they can't admit that, or they'd have to register under FARA. So instead, FARA is only used to go after, I don't know, people who lobby for Turkey. And this also reveals the hypocrisy of, now, I believe that Eric Adams, the New York mayor, is corrupt. However, what was he being charged for under the Justice Department, by the Justice Department, which has now been dropped by the Trump administration? He's being charged for taking bribes from Turkey. Now, why is he charged for taking bribes from Turkey, whereas people like Ted Cruz, our entire Congress, can take money that's largely coming from Israel or at the direction of Israel, and that doesn't count as some form of bribery? I don't really see the difference.
Believe you. I don't think you have some weird agenda. You seem to be sincere.
By the way, Tucker, it's a very weird thing. The obsession with Israel, when we're talking about foreign countries,
it's hardly an obsession.
You're not talking about Chinese. You're not talking about Japanese. You're not talking about the Brits. You're not talking about the French. The question, what about the Jews? What about the Jews?
Oh, like I'm an anti-Semite now.
Senator, you're asking the question, Tucker. You're asking, why are the Jews controlling our foreign policy?
Senator,
that's what you just asked.
Hardly.
And of course, and you know, Tucker Carlson does a fine job responding to this, so I'll play that. But looks like my screen just froze. Am I back? I think my screen froze. But of course, you guys were watching this segment that I just showed you. At no point did Tucker Carlson say, "What about the Jews?" And this is one of the things. One of my pet peeves is people who conflate Israel with Jews or Judaism. So in fact, if you were to accuse one of these two people of being anti-Semitic, it's the one who just conflated Israel with Judaism, which would be Ted Cruz. Tucker Carlson very clearly said Israel every time. He never said Israel does not speak for the Jews. Israel, in fact, is the opposite of what many Jews around this world want. There are millions of anti-Zionist Jews, and there are more Zionist Christians in America than there are Jews in America. So the idea that every Israeli or every Israel talking point is Jews or is the Jewish point of view is utter garbage. And of course, Ted Cruz has realized he's trapped. He's realized he can't have an answer for what AIPAC is because, of course, it's a foreign lobbying firm. And his answer then is to say, oh, you keep saying the Jews are running the government. Of course, Tucker Carlson never said that.
Semite now.
Senator, you're asking the question, Tucker.
You're
asking, Why are the Jews controlling our foreign policy?
Senator,
That's what you just asked.
Hardly saying that. And I have
That is exactly what you just said.
Well, actually, I can speak for myself and tell you what I am saying.
Good.
On behalf not simply of myself, but on of my many Jewish friends who would have the same questions, which is to what extent, and it's interesting you're trying to derail my questions by calling me an anti-Semite, which you are.
I did not.
Of course you are. and rather than be honorable enough to say it right to
you know what that reminded me of? You just called me an anti-Semite, and Ted Cruz was like, I did not, even though it was 8 seconds ago. How have you forgotten? It reminds me of, the famous sketch with Monty Python, the argument where it's where it's like, because where he's like, you said you came here I came here for an argument. You said I did not. Just denying things you said like 3 seconds earlier. What? I would never. This really is a Monty Python sketch.
Of course you are. And rather than be honorable enough to say it right to my face, you are in a sleazy feline way implying it, or just asking questions about the Jews. I'm not asking questions about the Jews. There's nothing to do with Jews or Judaism. It has to do with the foreign government.
Isn't Israel controlling our foreign policy? That's not about the Jews.
You said, I'm asking you.
And by the way, you're the one that just...
And yet again, Ted Cruz cannot understand that Israel is not the Jews. Israel literally just said the question, is Israel controlling our government? Not about the Jews? No, it's about Israel. It's about a government. It's about a nation state. Israel is not the Jews. Okay? Now, you could say Israel represents Jewish Israelis, those who are in Israel, but that's a very different thing. Anyway, what a repulsive human being Ted Cruz is.
There's nothing to do with Jews or Judaism. It has to do with the foreign government.
Isn't Israel controlling our foreign policy? That's not about the Jews.
You said, I'm asking you.
And by the way, you're the one that just called me, I think, a sleazy feline. So let's be clear.
It's sleazy to imply that I'm an anti-Semite, which you just did.
No, I just said, why is that the only question you're asking? You answer it. Give me another reason. If you're not...
By the way, this is a 2-hour interview, so it was not the only question Tucker Carlson was going to ask. I think they were rather early in the interview here. So the idea, why is this the only question you're asking? Well, actually, if you would answer it, he would probably move on, but you can't. So now we're stuck in this morass where you realize you can't answer the question of whether AIPAC is a foreign lobbying firm. So therefore, you're just accusing him of anti-Semitism.
An anti-Semite, give me another reason why the obsession is Israel.
I am in no sense obsessed with Israel. We are on the brink of war with Iran. And so these are valid questions.
But you're not asking about Iran.
If I can finish, you asked me why I'm obsessed with Israel.
Yep.
3 minutes after telling me that when you first ran for Congress, you elucidated one of your main goals, which is to defend Israel.
Yes.
And I'm the one who's obsessed with Israel. I don't see a lawmaker's job as defending the interests of a foreign government, period. Okay. Any government, including the ones that my ancestors come from. So that's my position. That does not make me an anti-Semite. And shame on you for suggesting otherwise. And I mean that. And that's low, and you know it's low. So why don't you just answer my questions
I'll answer
in a straightforward, rational way? You certainly have the IQ to do it.
So shame on you is cute, by the way, Tucker.
It is. It's not cute. I'm offended. I'm obsessed with the Jews. You just told me
you just called me a sleazy feline.
It is sleazy to imply that I'm an anti-Semite for asking questions about how my government is run.
You want to count how many questions you asked about? What about the Jews? What about Israel? What about AIPAC?
I never asked about the Jews. This has nothing to do with the Jews, whatever that means. This has to do with a foreign government. And once again, shame on you for conflating the two.
I think Tucker Carlson in this debate does a fairly good job, although it never really helps his point when he goes to the pitch of a dog whistle. He's like, you were asking about the Jews. Never. It's not a good selling point. But no, of course, Ted Cruz is just fucked in this. Like he is owned by, in terms of campaign donations, AIPAC and the other Israel lobbying firms. He had just admitted at the beginning of this discussion that, one of my main goals was to be the top defender of Israel, a settler, colonial, apartheid nation that has killed millions. But there's another part of the discussion. I'm gonna spare you all the high pitch, but there's another part of the discussion, or right around this same topic, where Ted Cruz insists that the reason he decided he was going to always endorse Israel was because in the Bible, it says something like, he who supports Israel is blessed. He who blesses Israel is also blessed. And Tucker Carlson has said, oh, really? The Bible says it? Where does it say that? And Ted Cruz has no idea because Ted Cruz doesn't even know. And then Tucker Carlson, who is also Christian. Tucker Carlson is so Christian to the point that he says he doesn't believe in evolution, which is wow. Just wow. But Tucker Carlson knows where it is in the Bible. But here's the thing that neither Tucker nor Ted Cruz can, and I don't know tons about the Bible or the Torah, but I know this. When the Bible or books or texts of that era say Israel, they're not talking about the nation state of Israel that started in 1948, you fucking idiots. Like, of course, a script thousands of years old is not referring to the dumb nation state of Israel. What that term means is Yisrael is a term that back then meant the people who wrestle with God. Wrestling with God, not meaning fighting God, but meaning struggling to come to an understanding of God, which, of course, is the rabbis. It is what Jewish practice was back then, spending a lot of time figuring out what God is and what the intention is and those guys. So it was called the people who wrestle with God. So that's what the Bible is. It's not you. Yeah, it's talking about the lines that were drawn in 1948 by 33 nations. Yes, 33 nations that voted for it at the UN, because there were only 52 nations in the UN at that time. And those 33, a good solid portion of them were forced into voting for it by other powerful countries like the United States. Anyway, just amazing how sleazy Ted Cruz is in this. Okay, so here's another. I'm going to do one more moment, and then I'm going to wrap up. That's the Tucker Carlson Ted Cruz discussion. But if you guys want me to do kind of a deeper dive into that full interview, let me know, and I will try and work on that. But yeah, I just wanted to go through a few clips this time. But so then later they talk about Iran, and Tucker Carlson does a pretty good job of eviscerating Ted Cruz on that as well. Because, of course, Ted Cruz wants war, just kind of endless war.
How many people live in Iran, by the way?
How
many people live in Iran, by the way? How many people live in Iran, by the way?
Wow, stop that.
I don't know the population.
I was talking over it, as I did 3 more times.
How many people live in Iran, by the way?
I don't know the population.
At all?
No, I don't know the population.
You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple?
How many people live in Iran?
92 million.
Okay. Yeah.
How could you not know that?
I don't sit around memorizing population tables.
Well, it's kind of relevant because you're calling for the overthrow of the government.
Why is it relevant whether it's,
because
it's 90 million or 80 million or 100 million? Why is that relevant?
Because if you don't know anything about the country...
I didn't say I don't know anything about
Okay, what's the ethnic mix of Iran?
They are Persians and
what
predominantly Shia. Okay.
It's not even... You don't know anything about Iran. So
okay, I am not the
I'll keep playing it, but the aspect that, you know, Tucker Carlson is doing a good job of letting him hang himself in these questions. Tucker Carlson's not really largely telling you what to think. He's just asking questions that Ted Cruz can't answer. But of course, the deeper reason, when Ted Cruz says, what's it matter if it's 80 million or 90 million or 100 million? To me, that is, yeah, of course, that's how the U.S. empire works. Do you think the U.S. empire that has killed millions, literally millions, Brown University cost of war, millions in the past several years with our wars, do you think we care how many people die or suffer with every move the U.S. empire, and I include Israel in that, takes? No, never for a second. The only calculation of how many people are in a country would be a calculation of how will it be tough to battle or kill that many? Will it be tough to control that many? That is the only calculation. There is no calculation in terms of, oh, wow, we don't want to hurt a nation with 40 million, with 90 million people. That might be too much. It is absolutely a full sociopath form of thinking. There is no care for the human being. So of course he doesn't care. 80 million, 90 million, 100 million. What's it matter? And he literally says that. What's it matter?
Tucker Carlson, expert on Iran.
You're a senator who's calling for the overthrow of the government.
You're the one who
claims anything about the country.
No, you don't know anything about the country. You're the one who claims they're not trying to murder Donald Trump. You're the one who can't figure out.
So there's another long discussion I should tell you earlier, where Ted Cruz claims that Iranian hitmen have been trying to murder Donald Trump, and then Tucker Carlson says, "Really? Where? When? Shouldn't we have immediately announced we're bombing Iran when they're trying to kill the president?" And of course, Ted Cruz won't give any answers to that because it's not true. There are no Iranian hitmen running around the U.S. trying to kill Trump. And Ted Cruz knows that, and Tucker Carlson likely knows that as well. And instead, you have to have this song and dance. So they tried to kill our president, so why don't you hate them? Well, no, they didn't really. That's a false flag. It's a false flag of information rather than a false flag of actually committing a bombing. False flags are often when a country bombs someone, kills people, and then says, "Oh, it was those other people." But you can also just do that with information. Iran is trying to assassinate our president. Well, we have to invade now. It's a false flag with information instead of actually killing someone.
It was a good idea to kill General Soleimani, and you said it was bad.
They're trying to murder Trump.
Yes, I do.
Because you're not calling for military strikes against them in retaliation. And if you really believe that,
we're carrying out military strikes today.
You said Israel was.
Right, with our help. I said we. Israel is leading them, but we're supporting them.
Well, you're breaking news here because the U.S. government last night denied, the National Security Council spokesman Alex Pfeiffer denied on behalf of Trump that we were acting on Israel's behalf in any offensive capacity.
No, we're not bombing them. Israel's bombing them.
You just said we were.
We are supporting Israel.
High stakes. You're a senator. If you're saying the United States government is at war with Iran right now, people are listening.
Okay.
That was one of my favorite moments. The reason he said we are is because Israel and the United States are one and the same. We send them the weapons. We send them the money. We're part and parcel to all of the decisions being made in Israel. In fact, when Israel began the genocide, like October 8th, Blinken had his own office inside Israel's version of the Pentagon. Blinken and his team went and set up an office in Israel's government to approve and review and give advice on the genocide. That is how much these things are connected. And of course, and so Ted Cruz slipped up and said, we're bombing Iran because Israel is the United States. And Tucker Carlson really nails him on it by being like, that's some breaking news right there. The U.S. is bombing Iran? Wow. Most of the world is arguing whether the United States will bomb Iran, whether they should bomb Iran. You're saying we already are because we're Israel. This was just brutal. I will admit, as much as I disagree with Tucker Carlson on other things, I will admit he did a good job of letting Ted Cruz just hang himself with the garbage he's spouting. It was rather beautiful, and it revealed, and I think it reveals far more than Ted Cruz, because Ted Cruz represents the same opinions as most of our Congress. Most of our Congress is supporting these things, supporting the genocide, etc. And so really, Tucker Carlson just eviscerated the view of most of Congress, and did it pretty well. I want to switch now. Please click subscribe. Please support the show at leecamp.net. My locals page would be awesome to see you join up there. But I want to shift now to, this is a map of Iran's most significant strikes on Israel. And of course, I'm not denying that Israel continues to strike Iran a great deal. They've killed several of their military leaders. But Iran keeps striking Israel, and it's getting far less coverage, at least the details of it, partially because our media doesn't want to admit that Iran is able to strike Israel, and partially because there's less information because Israel is banning any information from getting out about where Iranian strikes have landed. But of course, some of it still does get out. So Al Jazeera mapped some of the most significant strikes from Iran against Israel. And they talk about the military censorship during the war. Here are some of Iran's most significant strikes in Tamra and Haifa, the Haifa refinery, many strikes in Tel Aviv. They hit Israel's version of the Pentagon, equivalent of the Pentagon. Sensitive locations have been targeted. And that's another thing is, while Israel has killed hundreds of Iranians, and something like 90% of them have no connection, completely innocent, no connection to the military. Israel blew up a whole apartment building to get one military leader. Iran, although it's not always accurate, but Iran has been targeting actual military locations rather than trying to hit civilians. I believe this is Israel's Pentagon. This is the one that was struck by Iran. They also struck the Weizmann Institute of Science, one of Israel's leading research centers, south of Tel Aviv. The institute is reported to have collaborated with Israeli military, making it a significant target. They have hit the Tel Aviv metropolitan area, city adjacent to Tel Aviv. Missiles struck several towers and residential complexes, causing significant damage and forcing evacuations. Local authorities reported the 9 buildings were destroyed. But it seems even when Iran is striking civilian structures, it does not seem to be their aim. It seems very clear that their aim is to hit infrastructure and military targets. Let's see. Bat Yam, south of Tel Aviv, experienced the highest levels of destruction and casualties. Widespread damage. Haifa refinery, that's another infrastructure strike. Forcing a shutdown of oil refinery operations. Another town. Anyway. So there are some of the most successful Iranian strikes, and the reason I'm only covering those and not covering Israel strikes is because Israel strikes, you can turn on literally any corporate media channel and they will talk about everything Israel striking. So that's not really covered up news, whereas Iran's response has been fairly covered up, or more so covered up. All right, I want to shift to my ongoing. Let's shift to video of Israelis fleeing because leaving the country. Because one of the reasons I mentioned, I did a large segment on top 11 signs that Israel is collapsing or having a great deal of trouble, and one of them is just how many Israelis are leaving Israel, because many of them have dual citizenship and they're leaving the country. And anyway, here's a video of, I believe the Polish embassy was facilitating this. Long line of Israelis getting on buses, leaving town because their genocidal behavior is coming back to haunt them. I think that in most cases, when you accuse an entire nation state of the behavior of their government, that's a bad idea. However, I would also point out that 82%, I think is the latest poll, of Israelis support the full ethnic cleansing of Gaza. The number that support completing genocide is lower, but the number who say all Gazans or Palestinians should leave Gaza is 80%. It's an unfathomable number of their country that want to see ethnic cleansing completed. And I guess it's not that surprising considering they all are forced into the military, which means they all have that indoctrination of years in the military. And that's a really effective way to indoctrinate people. Okay, I now want to go to my ongoing segment of celebrities speaking out, celebrities or people's names who you usually know pretty easily, speaking out against Israel. This is growing, and it's growing fast, man. It's like a dam has broken of we can't say anything about this genocide. And I don't mean to imply that the the two people I'm about to highlight haven't said anything. But anyway, I've done other segments on this, segments showing Stephen Colbert changing his tune, segments showing other well-known celebrities speaking out against the genocide. But Javier Bardem made the ladies of The View look like fools the other day.
But the situation in Gaza is come to a term now where I cannot express the pain that I, along with many millions of people there, suffered on a daily basis watching those horrible images of children being murdered and starving to death, being absolutely blocked the aid of medicines, water, medical material,
food,
kids that have been amputated without anesthesia.
yeah.
People that yesterday they were shot, 25 people were shot while they were looking for humanitarian aid in what they call the Hunger Games.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, experts on international law, experts on international Amnesty International, international human rights, and some people that know what they're talking on Holocaust survivors are calling a genocide for it. And if you ask me, I believe it's a genocide. Why is that? First of all, because the impunity that is taking Israel in doing these actions and the lack of action on any government is, of course, the backup of the United States with all these weapons and the economics, and also the silence of Europe, is creating in a scenario where there's such an impunity that if we really don't do something about that, we are going towards what is happening now. And an absolute impunity on creating wars all over and creating so much pain that is going to affect so many people.
Yeah.
But also, and with this I will finish, the most important thing is to not lose the humanity and really denounce when we have to denounce and who we have to denounce.
Javier, come back.
Obviously.
Cut to commercial. They started playing him off with music like it's the fucking Oscars. Okay, that's all the time we have for discussion of the genocide. Let's move on. Oh, what sacks of shit. And they, other than mumbling, like the couple of mumbles as he was talking, you didn't hear any like full-throated agreement. Instead, Whoopi Goldberg's like, Javier, we'd love to have you back. Okay, here's a shampoo ad. Dude, fucking disgusting human beings. It's not like I watched The View, so I don't know what they've been saying over these past 18 months. I assume not a lot about genocide. I assume not daily coverage of how fucking horrific this is. But yeah, good for him for taking over the show and doing a full several minutes on a big platform, because it's what we need more of, people with platforms. Yeah, I think it sucks that it took, and I'm not speaking to him. I don't know how often he's been speaking out about it. I'm just saying, I think it sucks that it's taken this long for many celebrities to speak out on major platforms, but we need it. So fucking do it. Do it now. Yeah, it's late. It's way late, but do it now. And here is another clip. I don't know if I'm going to play the whole thing, but of Theo Von, and most of you know him, but if you don't, he's got one of the top 5 podcasts in the world, I think now. And he's an interesting personality. He plays. I don't think he's actually very dumb, but at times he comes across that way. I mean, I don't know whether it's playing dumb. I don't quite know what's going on, but he has started speaking out more against this genocide.
Trying to get us into a war with Iran or not, America. If Israel is trying to, I don't trust the Israel leader at all. I don't believe anything that guy says, and I don't think that our soldiers should have to go and defend stuff that they start. I'm not.
So I will say, good for speaking out about it. He also is making a common mistake, which is thinking that these are two separate entities. A lot of people want to say, oh, Netanyahu is dragging us into this. If only the United States. But of course, we're one and the same. That doesn't mean there aren't disagreements in the ruling elite, but it's a lot of people want to think that, you know, oh man, we didn't want to be in this war, but we got to go protect Israel. God damn it.
Not a soldier. So I'm obviously speaking out of turn. I'm not even brave enough to serve. So there's that element.
Oh, God. I hate that garbage. I know. It's not really fair for me to play his clip saying good for you for speaking out and then tear apart parts of it, but I can't resist. Like, serving in a bloodthirsty fucking imperial death machine. I don't. Well done. Yay. Woohoo. Now, I understand a lot of young people are confused and don't understand the reality of it all. So I'm not saying every soldier understands what it is that they're serving for, but, and don't say serving. I know I say that a lot. But this garbage about, oh, you can't speak out about these things because you're not a soldier. No, in fact, it should be the opposite. If you've been indoctrinated, if you've signed up to be a part of this machine, now you can't speak about it. It's too late. You already signed your life over to the U.S. government. You are a military, a gun of the U.S. government. Now you can't have an opinion on it anymore. Unless you turn your back on it and start speaking out, that's different. But to be a signed gun of the U.S. empire and go, I'm the only one who can talk about it. No.
Not even brave enough to serve. So there's that element. But that is kind of how I feel, I guess. And so it's like, yeah, when do I speak? When do I say that? You know? Because it feels like you're trying to push Trump to go do that. And it's like, who makes that choice? Does he make that choice? And then what do we get? You know, what's the win for us? We're just involved in some other thing. Well,
yeah, I mean, the lack of information among people, and it's intentional, you know, our propaganda is intentional, but the lack of information about the reality of the situation is like kind of breathtaking. He says, like, we get dragged into Iran and then what's the point for us? But of course, if you understand the petrodollar system, if you understand why it is the U.S. ruling elite have despised Iran for years now, then you understand that this is not just about Israel. And it is not just the aim of Israel. The U.S. has been working hard and has tried to create internal coups in Iran for many years. And I'm, of course, talking post-revolution. I'm not going back to 1953, but when we couped Iran. But, yeah, it's just the people lack so much information. But at least he's still opposed to it.
While we have suffering here at home. So maybe something like that is like, yeah, should I even speak up? Because I'm not in service. Servicemen and women may be like, we'll do it, you know, and that's.
All right, I can't actually listen to that part anymore. To the praising of our bloodthirsty U.S. empire goons. And I know not every soldier is a goon, but yeah. I'm not brave enough to serve. I know you're. I would say too smart to serve, but I don't know how smart Theophan is. But he's also spoken against the genocide recently, and he doesn't have a political show, even though he's had like Trump on and shit like that. It's largely not a political show. It's largely just I talk to people and I see what they're doing, kind of show. So for him to take the time to do something like this is a step above what he would normally do on any issue, and you know. I'm glad to see more people with platforms. He has a massive platform, more people with platforms speaking out. And, you know, wouldn't it be great if all of the top podcasts spoke out like that? Okay, let's see here. Let's jump to Pete Hegseth, the head of the Pentagon. And you know, I'll trash the Democrats as well in this, but it's him before Congress yesterday. I think it was yesterday or the day before. Saying he won't follow the law, which is kind of important for someone who runs the Pentagon. But
let's face it, it is not normal to call up our troops in this way. And there is active litigation against this deployment. Will you follow a court's order regarding whether or not this deployment is legal.
She's, of course, talking about sending military to California to fight against protesters when the state of California has not asked for the military, which hasn't been done since the 1950s and 60s.
But if the court says this deployment of troops into our cities is not legal, would you follow that court's order?
It's pending in the courts, Senator.
Well, when the court decides, would you follow that court's order decision?
I don't believe district courts should be determining national security policy.
So
But
you will not be following that.
when it goes to the
it's a
Supreme Court,
legitimate
we'll see.
Court. And unless the president decides to appeal, there you have it. So I take.
So yeah, he basically said that it doesn't matter what the courts say, because I don't believe they should be speaking about anything the Pentagon does, which, you know, to this, we have this little shred of a separation of powers left in the United States. It doesn't really exist. People think it exists far more than it does. But here you have the head of the Pentagon, the head of the U.S. war machine, saying even if a court says you can't send the military to a state without that state requesting it to arrest and wage war against Americans, Hegseth says, yeah, I don't believe that they should have any say on that. So it's it's pretty breathtaking admission. And of course, it's the fast track to fascism. Oh, you can just use the military in any state in the country you want to do whatever they want. Okay, cool. Now, the reason this largely hasn't mattered until now is because the ruling elite of this country are largely in lockstep. Good reference there, considering fascism, but largely in lockstep on the larger issues of the country, of national, quote unquote, national security, another bullshit euphemism, but they're largely in lockstep. So you don't normally have a lot of disagreement between the Pentagon and Congress, with the exception of a couple of congressmen here or there. You know, you got occasionally Ron Paul used to speak out against the Pentagon, like Rand Paul sometimes. Like, you don't have much. And so normally the Pentagon never has to answer that question. Normally the courts are not even involved, and when they are, they're going to agree with whatever the Pentagon's doing. So most of the time it hasn't really mattered. But here you have the admission of the ruling human at the Pentagon saying, I don't really care what the courts say. We have bigger guns. Well, that does it, right? That becomes martial rule. It becomes the Pentagon ruling the country. Now, behind closed doors, they already kind of do. Like the ruling elites, a tiny number of oligarchy are pulling the strings, and it doesn't matter what you vote for. We don't have say in things. We don't have say in whether we go to a war with a war in Iran. 60% of Americans say we should not be involved in Iran. Doesn't matter. There's no democracy on these actions. Most Americans want to, at minimum, see a ceasefire in Gaza, meaning Israel stop bombing and killing Gazans, and they want to see an end to the famine and the starvation. Even if they don't seem to care a lot about the ethnic cleansing of Gaza, they want to see those things. Doesn't matter. There's no voting on this. There's no democracy. The idea that we have a democracy on these matters is just laughable. And yeah. Anyway, let's see. I'm going to play just a few minutes of. This is Professor Morandi. Actually, before I do that, let me just say, everyone, please support this show. It would be amazing if you could sign up at patreon.com/LeeCamp or at LeeCamp.net. It's like 38 cents an episode or something. If you were to do that, that's how much you'd be supporting this show. LeeCamp.net is my locals page. It's a fun hangout. It's a community. It's kind of like a mix of Patreon and Patreon and Facebook. And anyway, you can post your own stuff also at locals when you become a member. LeeCamp.net will take you straight there. Scroll down to become a supporter rather than just become a member, because that's the free version. That would be awesome. The other thing is I've just joined Means TV. Means.tv will take you straight there. It's kind of like Netflix for people who give a shit. And it's worker owned. There are no ads. There's no algorithm. There's no censorship. And Unredacted Tonight is at Means.tv. So if you want Unredacted Tonight every week, no algorithm, no censorship, no commercials, it's there at Means.tv. Use promo code Lee in order to get 20% off. And also you'll get a free trial of 1 week. That's Means.tv Means.tv. Use promo code Lee when you check out. If you don't use promo code Lee, also, you will not be giving my show credit for sending you over there. So 2 reasons to use the promo code, 20% off, and you'll be supporting my show. Okay. Professor Morandi was speaking to a propaganda shill, and he does a it's just fun to watch him tear down their garbage. And she does well, I'm just asking questions. What's the big deal?
Did Iran majorly miscalculate? Because even now, President Trump is providing Iran with an off-ramp, telling them to come to the negotiating table. At what point will Iran take that offer?
Well, according to your narrative, Iran always miscalculates. It's a regime. I heard the regime 20 times in the last 10 minutes as I was listening. You sound like TASS news agency upgraded during the Soviet Union. And you say the regime is unpopular and is killing its people. When General Soleimani was murdered by the same Trump that you talk about, millions of people came to the streets of this city, Tehran, that I'm in. So how is it that he's so unpopular?
But also, you notice that she's very carefully couching it as Iran's unpopular, Iran is losing, Iran miscalculated. Netanyahu's ridiculously unpopular in Israel right now. He also is under corruption charges. If he ever isn't president, he'll probably go to jail. You notice she's just saying, "Oh, Iran, they're unpopular." Furthermore, she says, "Oh, they miscalculated." But there's an easy argument to make that Israel has miscalculated. Iran's a country of 90 million people. They clearly are capable of bombing Israel. They have strong ally. They're strong allies with Russia and China. There's an easy argument to make that Israel is the one miscalculating, but of course she's not asking that.
This propaganda that you're producing is only justifying aggression. What the Israeli regime did was aggression. What it did was unjustified aggression. And Netanyahu has been saying for over 30 years, some say up to 40 years, he's been saying that Iran's on the verge of creating a nuclear weapon. And thanks to people like you, he gets away with these lies, but people can go online and check how many times he said.
Professor Morandi, if you could just focus on, I know your narrative and I know the line you take, and we've spoken a number of times, and I'm sure, but if you could just focus on answering the question, in terms of the nuclear talks, on day 60, as far as we know, Donald Trump had said Iran has 60 days. Israel attacked on the 61st day. Can we talk a little bit about the regime's...
As if Trump saying Iran has 60 days matters. Why does Trump get to say that? The fuck is it? Like, what right does he have to say, oh, you have 60 days before we bomb the shit out of you over fake nuclear weapons that you don't have? It's unbelievable.
Competence levels, the intelligence and security, the competence of your intelligence and security agencies, the fact that Mossad was able to build drone sites in your country, the fact that the leadership was asleep in their beds when they were struck and that you ignored these warnings.
She's basically talking about a terrorist act committed by Israel assassinating people in a sovereign country out of the blue. She's talking about it in like, isn't that cool? Like, way, like, wow, look how cool things Israel did and Iran couldn't stop it. Like, you could, if you had an iota of strength or courage or morality, you'd be like, what the fuck is Israel doing? But of course, she's taking the opposite tact of Iran clearly just has to admit Israel's awesome, dude.
Can we talk a little bit about the fact that the regime was taken completely by surprise and top leaders have now been decapitated and killed as a result of the Israeli attacks?
Saying regime, I think it helps you contain your contempt for independent countries. After all, you work for Sky News. It's understandable. But the regime, how do you know that the Israeli regime had bases inside Iran? You're just repeating their propaganda. Of course, Israel for you is not a regime. Sorry, it's a state.
And of course, he's making the point that you only use the term regime about countries you're trying to make sound scary, whereas Israel, which is not a democracy, it's an apartheid state. You can't be an apartheid state and a democracy. Democracy is a vote by all, not a vote by just Jewish Israelis. It's not a democracy. It's an apartheid theocracy. But, you know, that's not called a regime. Only Iran's called a regime, or Venezuela's called a regime, even though Venezuela has more reliable elections than the United States does. So bad guys are regimes. The good guys are democratic institutions.
But it's a genocidal state carrying out extermination in Gaza, but that's not really important. But how do you know?
So are you denying that the top commanders have been killed? Are you denying that top commanders were killed?
Oh, so you mean what you're referring to basically is an attack, an act of aggression, that they suddenly fire missiles at civilian targets at apartment buildings and slaughter people in those apartment buildings, slaughtering whole families. For you, that's targeting. That's a really sophisticated act.
But if I can just,
yeah, you'd think she might also care about that angle of it, that Israel was bombing civilians. Does that matter anymore? Are we discussing that as if it matters anymore? No, we're just moving into this new world where blowing up civilians is fine. It's just, 100 people died mysteriously. They killed, the latest numbers are like Israel killed 270 Palestinians in the past week. And it's like a blip, because 270 out of 55,000 dead from bombs, but 350,000 dead from bombs, famine, disease, everything else in Gaza. So, they only killed 100 civilians, innocent people. Only 20 children with that bomb. Wow, that's so nice of them.
I can just ask, have military facilities been hit? Have nuclear facilities been hit?
One of the buildings that has some of these commanders, one or two of these commanders, was a large apartment building where they killed everyone, 60 people, 20 children. That's not important for people like you, but that's important for people like us. For you, people like you who support ethno-supremacism and the chosen people being able to slaughter and exterminate
Professor
Palestinians.
Morandi, I'm just trying to get the perspective.
You can tell she's a little, she swallowed hard when he said, you who support ethno-supremacism. And she's kind of shocked at having these accusations thrown at her, because in her mind, probably what she's doing is just pushing forward these viewpoints from her news channel, Sky News, which is right-wing news. She doesn't think of herself as supporting ethno-supremacism, but of course, that's what it is when you actually break it down. If you think that Israel should just have the right to blow up and obliterate other countries because it feels like it, well, that's actually ethno-supremacism, because it is an ethno-state, and you're saying it has the supreme right to kill, maim, ethnically cleanse anyone. And she's shocked to hear herself defined that way. But if you actually break down what it is she's asking, how she's asking it, how she's couching these questions, that's what it is. Okay, folks, a few things. One is I have a new episode of Unredacted tonight. It just came out last night, and it is epic. Let's see if I can. I don't know what that's. Oh, God. Okay. YouTube was trying to hurl ads at me. And so I'd love for you to check it out. Go to leecamp.com/unredacted. We'll take you straight there. And in it, I tear apart Jordan Peterson and Naftali Bennett, the former prime minister of Israel. And I think you would really enjoy the show. leecamp.com/unredacted. New episode just came out. I also get into why Medicaid is being gutted, the dark secrets behind why it's being gutted. So all of that's at leecamp.com/unredacted. That'll take you straight to the Unredacted playlist, and you can watch it there. Also, some scheduling notes. Starting next week is kind of, sort of a month-long vacation for me. And my family, I've got family obligations combined with a little bit of vacation, etc. However, for one thing, there's a new Unredacted Tonight coming up next week. Secondly, there's another Unredacted Tonight coming out July 10th. So 2 Unredacted Nights are coming out in this so-called vacation time. So I don't really take a vacation when I take a vacation. Also, I'm going to try and do a few live streams while I am traveling. I just wanted to warn you, the schedule will not be the norm, will not be the usual for 1 month. And I should be back into the usual schedule and at the end of July. So just make sure you pay attention and subscribe. And there will be a new Unredacted Tonight next week. So please don't miss that. And all of Unredacted is at leecamp.com/unredacted. That's the YouTube playlist. And I highly recommend this episode. You're going to love it. It's funny. It's gripping. You'll laugh. You'll cry. You'll get also your ass will be a bit itchy. I'm not going to explain why, but you'll find out. You'll find out. But yeah, and I'd love for you to support this show at leecamp.net, my locals page, or patreon.com/leecamp. And if you wanted me to remind you one more time how to check out Means TV, that's means.tv, promo code Lee. All right. See you next Thursday for Unredacted Tonight. Keep fighting.
Well, brother, I salute you, though, man. You're one of the few that bring together this tremendous artistic talent and still be in such deep solidarity with oppressed people.
It's an honor to be here because I'll tell you, Lee, you have one of the funniest shows on television, bar none.
It's an enormous pleasure to be here. While I was waiting, I was leafing through your wonderful book.
The same to you. I love your show. Be happy to come back anytime.
Lee, this is one of the great honors of my long career, just to be in the same earth with you.
I'm sure.
We're just so blinded. We have so many blinders on because our society doesn't want us to know things. And so it takes shows like your show, and
it is clearly designed to eradicate.
Hey, good to see you.
Hey, Jill, how are you? Julian, thanks for joining me. Honor to have you, brother.
Consumerism is a theory that people should behave this way to help each other. It's not.
Mr. George Galloway, thank you so much for joining me in these dark times.
Always a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you so much, Lee, for having me on. Keep fighting. Ha.